Good evening and welcome to the Pittsford Central School District Board of Education meeting. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin, I would just like to offer a moment of silence. We've had a weekend of tragedy and would like to offer a moment of silence for the 3 U.S. Army National Guardsmen who lost their lives in the line of duty last week. We would also like to extend our heartfelt thoughts and prayers to one of our Park Road families for the tragic loss of a parent this weekend. Thank you. May I have an approval of the agenda, please? Okay. I have Pete and Irene. Any edits? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Principal's report. We will welcome Sean Clark for his final report from Jeff Road. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you very much.
We're so sorry that we missed our tour the other day, but we're hopeful to get that back on our calendar.
You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Let me know. Absolutely. Thank you. Just starting out, opening schools in the pandemic, when I reflect back on the spring, I think about all of the work that went into the planning, the different iterations of opening school with the hope that we would actually get the kids back. I don't know if in my wildest dreams I would have thought that in January we would still be in session with the kids, but it was really a labor of love, and I'm so proud of the efforts and being part of the planning from top to bottom. Everyone just did an amazing job to make sure that we were able to come back and be with our kids each and every day. I wanted to start with just an overview of where we are as far as sectioning. So we currently have just under 400 students that are with us every day, about 60 remote learners, and our sectioning is broken up. We have about 19, well, we do have 19 sections in place in 30 different spaces. So we've had to utilize virtually every space in the building, including our cafe as a learning area. But one of the things that we really tried to do was to make sure that our gym was open, because we felt it was so important for our students to have a space to be able to get some exercise, to run around and to have some enjoyment. So we were able to continue to have our gym space open and available. For this school year, the goals were a few and lofty. First off, in the spring, the approval with the transition of Mendon Center students to Jefferson Road. And once that was approved, almost immediately we went into action to make sure that it would be a very smooth and as seamless as possible transition for those students over to Jefferson Road. So there were many different videos that were sent over, phone calls made, Zoom meetings even with some families that were nervous or just needed a little extra TLC. I did a whole building video tour. And in the video, I actually make a swish with the basketball, showing the gym. First try, not really. It was different iterations, but I cut it to make it look like it was a first try. And actually, by the end of the summer, we were able to get people in person to tour the building to just to try to make sure that they felt very comfortable coming in. Also, safely opening our schools and making sure that our staff felt comfortable and good about being in the building, following all of our safety protocols. That was really important. And we actually have 11 new classroom teachers this year at Jefferson Road School, and a number of support staff as well. So just a lot of new faces. And I must say, the new children that are there, the new families, the new staff, it's really just brought a different energy into the building, and it's been extremely enjoyable getting to know all of the new staff and students. And last but not least, ensuring that the students come to school every day and that they're having fun and they're able to learn. That was so important for us as we got into our planning. We've never done this, and we didn't know how it would go. The kids have been incredible wearing the masks. Staff have been incredibly flexible, And again, it's been a wonderful start to the school year. Very proud of everyone. In the beginning of the year, it was really business as usual, unpacking our mission statement, classrooms working together to get to know each other, set the expectations for how they were going to interact at the beginning of the school year. That was, again, business as usual. But what we didn't know and what we tried to make sure we were going to be able to do is to honor our precious traditions that we have at Jefferson Road School. So in November, we felt very fortunate that we were able to continue our in-gathering program where we collect items for donation to the Pittsford food cupboard. Our student council, meeting totally virtual, they set a goal for 1,800 donations, and our generous school community, once again, they just crushed the goal year in and year out. In one of the most challenging years for accepting donations, we were able to secure 3,376 items for the Pittsford food cupboard. And this happened completely off-site. Usually the kids would come into the building with their bags, and we would have charts and graphs, and you would just see all of the supplies just kind of stacked up. This year we had one parent, Mrs. Linehan from our PTSA, who opened up her home, and parents and families would drop off the items. She did all of the counting for us. She made sure that all of the items were able to go to the Pittsford food cupboard, and we were still able to have our celebration virtually. So it was still a lot of fun. Not quite the same as having everyone in the auditorium and that level of energy, but to still honor that tradition, I thought that was a real win for our school. The kids still had a lot of joy doing it, and it's just such a great service to the community, so very proud of that. Another tradition, Read to Succeed. We were able to have our older students engage in that contest with the support of Mrs. Sweeney, our librarian, and again, keeping those traditions for us is extremely important. I have to give special notice to our special area teachers because some of them are working day in and day out on carts, and they've had to become so creative and innovative this year, as we all have. But to have their space be taken away, you wouldn't know that from interacting with them day in and day out. They are passionate about what they do. They are passionate about being creative and innovative with the kids. So being able to see the work that they do, to still have the kids engage with hands-on ukuleles and the art projects that come out of the instruction with Mrs. Maslin, and our gym area, having that space open for kids to be able to move around. I'm really just so proud of our special area teachers for the work that they've done this year. Our lunch times, we've been able to, and one of the things that we thought was really important in our planning was to continue to have students go through the lunch line in a transition. It's another opportunity for them to get up and to get moving. Our kindergartners are doing a fantastic job. They come through the line, even with their snowsuits on. They get their lunch. They know which choices. Honestly, they are going to be so well prepared next year when it's business as usual, hopefully. They're just doing a marvelous job. The kids are enjoying their lunch together. They have their time to eat. They put their masks back on. They engage in conversations or do other activities, and lunchtime has just been fantastic. And the kids eating in the classrooms, just talking to our head custodian, Mrs. Mack, she said how impressed she was that the kids are so respectful of their environment and keeping it clean and just being respectful. So great job with our kids. And we continue our commitment to inclusivity and cultivating an environment where all of our students feel like they belong. And that started on the first day of school. I did a read aloud with the book, Teach Us Your Name, which was really fitting with so many new students and staff coming into the building. That went really well. And always with our library and the different rich texts that are available in books and read alouds from our library. We've done different projects and just students having access to the supplies and materials that they need in order to show who they are. So that is ongoing work. And very excited that with the appointment of the new Jeff Road principal, Leah Kedley, we have been in conversations the last few weeks, and she will be visiting the school this week, so we're extremely excited to welcome her. And I think she's going to be just an absolutely terrific fit. So I'm very excited to help with the transition, and I will be there for her with ongoing support. And the kids are getting ready, the staff are getting ready. She seems, again, like she's going to be an absolute wonderful fit. And more to come. And just in closing, I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of the students at Jefferson Road School, the tremendous staff, our phenomenal parents, PTSA, our district support staff, district administration, Superintendent Piero, and the board for really allowing me the gift to serve the Jefferson Road community. It's been such an honor. It's been, these last 7.5 years have really been the highlight of my professional career, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for that. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
So, Sean, I would just have to say right back at you. We cannot thank you for your time at Jeff Road, and I know that you will be missed by all the families there and the students and the staff. We're so glad that you're not going too far, and we'll see you on an ongoing basis around the table. So thank you again for the years of service to Jeff Road community, and we look forward to Leah Hadley joining us as well. So
Thank you very much.
I don't know if anyone else had anything they wanted to.
Sean, I just want to say thank you for the presentation and for your leadership at Jeff Road. I absolutely love, I'm probably at Jeff Road more than you may know, and when I'm having a tough day and need to see kids, and anytime I walk into Jeff Road, it's awesome because the first left turn you take, you're in the kindergarten wing, and I'm able to see in action what school looks like on a daily basis at Jeff Road, and I'm able to see students, and it's weird to see them in desks and not on the carpet, but how acclimated they are and how amazing the teachers are and the paraprofessionals are, and seeing kids smile and having fun and learning, and they're doing it. We're in a pandemic, and I give you a ton of credit, your teachers, your paraprofessionals, your custodians, everyone in the building, a ton of credit for making it happen in a real big way. So thank you for your leadership there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
May I have an approval of the minutes from January 11th, please? Thanks, Val
So
and
moved.
Robin. Thanks, Ted. That just came out of nowhere. We can't see you.
I looked up at the ceiling.
But thank you for contributing. It scared me a little bit. May I have an approval of the minutes from January 19th, please? Ted, do you want a motion?
I'm everywhere.
Okay. Ted, I'll give you that one. Second, anyone? Irene? Okay. Any edits on that special meeting? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Board of Education reports. So you see all of the dates here. We do have some that are identified as Zoom meetings. We are waiting to see if we will be bringing some of these meetings back live at the Doubletree, dependent on the lift of restrictions. So more to come there. We'll have an update as we get further into February, but for now, these have been confirmed as dates via Zoom. Dates to remember, our next board tour is on the 4th of February at Sutherland High School at 7:30. If I could just have a show of hands of those that believe that they will be there. Okay. So I said, well, okay. And our next regularly scheduled meeting is the 8th of February. Financial report. Darren.
Thank you. Have a treasurer's report for December. Usually a fairly light month. We did receive our excess cost or special education aid, $672,000, and lottery grant aid. The good news is neither one of these aids had a withholding from the state as originally threatened. So hopefully that trend will continue, and based on indicators right now, it seems like it will. Moving on to revenue, just real quickly, we did have 2 certificates of deposit mature during the time in similar amounts as last year. However, our interest earnings was $4,800 versus $44,000 for the similar time period and amount of money last year. So definitely a sign of the times. Moving on to the school lunch fund. The program had a $75,000 deficit. Perhaps a good way to put this into perspective is December usually is a hard month for the program because it has a limited number of days, but we had 16 potential serving days, or school days, I should say. However, due to the hybrid scheduling, we really only had 13 days to serve lunch, and of those days, roughly half as many students. So our participation is way down. In talking to the other school districts, they're experiencing the same thing, even though they are in the program. They are struggling as well because their counts are down so much as well, and so are their a la carte sales, just like us. Other than that, that's pretty much the high points for the Treasurer's report.
May I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Renee and Pete, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next is the second quarter extra classroom activities report. Again, due to the pandemic, a lot of clubs are not running, or they're running on a limited basis. There's not as much activity. The high schools did have some, and so did the secondary schools on a more limited basis. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
May I have a motion to approve the extra classroom report?
So moved.
I have Robin and I have Ted. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. Next item is the single audit report. And Renee, I don't want to step on the toes of the Audit Oversight Committee. Do you want me to address this? You want to address it? Okay. This used to be called the Federal Compliance Report. Basically, what the auditors do is look at all of our grants and federal funds and state funds that we receive, and they have to file this report with the federal government to say that we've used the funds according to the grants in the valid amounts and free of material misstatement. It is a clean audit report or unqualified opinion, so that there's no findings to report on this report.
May I have a motion to approve the audit report, please? Thank you, Renee. And Irene, any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we have a tax tertiary agreement. Town of Parenton took the lead on this, and we joined with them. It's for two small parcels of property and a fairly nominal change in the assessment over a 2-year period.
May I have a motion to approve the tax certiorari, please? Thanks, Val. Anyone else? Thanks,
Second.
Pete. Okay, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Non-resident tuition rates, this is something we do annually. The PDTA contract allows children of teachers to attend school here on a tuition basis. There are some other applications that sometimes we use this for. This is based on a state prescribed formula, and in November it comes out from the state. And it breaks it down between regular education and special education, and within each one of those categories, Case 6 through and 7-12.
May I have a motion to approve the tuition rate? Okay, I have Irene and Pete. Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And last declaration of scrap, we have a couple of wrestling mats at Sutherland High School that Mr. Barker says we are not using, and the cheerleaders don't need to use them. They're pretty old, so per board policy, we're asking that you declare them scrap, and then we will do a public auction or bid RFP process to see that they are sold to the highest bidder.
May I have a motion to approve the wrestling mats? Thank you, Renee and Robin. Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darren. Human Resource Report. Mike Leone.
Good evening. First, the professional report and a couple notes. We have the recommendation of administrator tenure. We have 2 administrators that the superintendent has recommended. We had the first reading last time and would ask for the board's approval of that. Then we have our normal appointments. I will also point out we have some retirements. First, we have an administrator retirement in Kathleen Herrick, our Director of Transportation, who started as a bus driver, has been with us 22 years, and has made incredible contributions to our district. She will be retiring at the end of the school year. And then this is the time of year when we have our teacher retirements. And this year we have 10 teachers retiring, in that group accounts for 234.8 dedicated full-time years of service. And you have the letters behind there. And I just want to read one part of Stu Smith's letter, not that all the letters didn't have great things to say, but Stu, who's been here for a very long time. I've always considered myself lucky to find a job that I truly love. Not once have I gotten up in the morning dreading to set off for work. Teaching has always been my passion. I have never considered my job as work and have never thought of my colleagues as coworkers, but as family. Pittsford is truly a remarkable place. And I think that it's always my honor, because I get to collect these letters, so people come into the office and I get a chance to spend a moment with them, and it's really in quite an amazing group. So for your consideration is the professional staff report.
May I have a motion to approve the professional staff report? Thanks, Pete. And Irene, questions or comments? So it's funny, I was actually calculating all the years myself, Mike. So I'm glad my
Did I
math
get it right?
my math was right. But in all seriousness, I think it saddens each one of us to see the amount of time and effort that these exceptional educators have given to Pittsford Central Schools is just incredible. And so they will be sorely missed. And Kathy, I think that position is one position that people just don't think necessarily about all the time. And when you think about all that Kathy has done for the district, it's truly exceptional, and she will be sorely missed as well. We do look forward to a time when we can celebrate these retirements, and it's safe to do so. So in the meantime, congratulations to those who are retiring, and we will miss you. So with that, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Second for your consideration is the support staff report. We have some appointments. We have a resignation. I'll also point out the retirement of Donald Polke, a master mechanic who, again, has served with us for a number of years for his upcoming retirement.
May I have a motion, please? Val
So moved.
and Ted? Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And just on a personal note, I just wanted to say thank you to the board and my colleagues on COT. Tonight marks my last official meeting as the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources Board meeting. I will see you in February as I'm helping out in the transition, but it's been really a pleasure, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Mike, we will be missing you, but we know that we will be seeing you. So it's not a goodbye yet. But thank you so much for your time with us. It's been just truly valuable to the entire district. So thank you. Okay, special education report, Elizabeth.
Good evening. We have CSE and CPSE recommendations on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Superintendent's report, Mike?
Thank you. There is not a need for an executive session this evening. On the consent agenda is the policy approval for 7621, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Would just like to acknowledge our retirements to start, our retirees. And at the same time as we said goodbye to our seniors last year, it was really tough to say goodbye in a really tough year, and I'm feeling that a little bit with our retirees. And it's kind of honorable at the same time that you're retiring, probably in the hardest year of your career. And just want to thank our retirees for hanging in there and for making this year amazing in every sense of the word, considering we're in a pandemic. Also, I would echo Amy's statements about our Director of Transportation in retiring this year. It's a very tough job, and she's been incredible and will be very difficult to replace. But Kathy, know that we love you and thank you for all you've done. And to Mike Leone, you are not off the hook for a celebration for this year. So we have plans on recognizing you very soon, and just know how deeply appreciative we are of for all you've done. You've been absolutely nothing short of stellar, so thank you. A couple updates in the board packet this evening are the mid-year status reports. This year's focus, and you heard it from Sean Clark, was primarily on how our work has shifted this year in light of the pandemic. And I will say that it's remarkable that we have been able to provide 5 days of in-person K through 5 instruction. At the same time, it's remarkable we've been able to pull off hybrid and remote models, and I can't thank our staff enough for all of their efforts. I think from the outside world, it may seem easy, and I totally get that. But to run 3 different learning models and all it entails is not as easy as turning off or on a switch. It's very difficult. I'd also like to highlight that many of us had not truly had a day off since last March. So I'd like to thank our staff, including our administrators and our central office team, for so much hard work this past 10 months. It really has been a reflection of your character and how much passion you have for education. So thank you all for getting us to where we are right now. Because names are mentioned in the mid-year status reports as we submit them to the Board of Education, we are going to go through a process of redacting names, and then we will post the reports on our website. But for the public, I would like to mention some of the things that you'll see in the mid-year status report. So some highlights you'll see is a recognition of the communication that's been ongoing from the district since the pandemic, our creation of a hub on a dedicated COVID-19 site, multiple forums that we've held for staff and community, weekly communication that's been ongoing. We've become a legitimate testing site, which is something I never thought would come out of my mouth. We're on track now to have administered 2,400 tests regarding staff and students. We've successfully dealt with ongoing shifts and guidance, including different zones. We've distributed grocery cards and money to families that are in need. We've created best practices surrounding synchronous and asynchronous learning. We've had teachers focusing on pacing and essential learning and doing that together, and doing that late at night and early in the morning, and on free time, which has been remarkable. We've distributed over 1,000 computers, and we've completed countless amount of help tickets to families that were struggling. We've offered and accommodated all families the choice of learning models twice this year. We were forward thinking with the budget to fund 3 different models, to fund the PPE that was needed and to fund the staffing so that we can have 3 different rigorous levels of learning. We've had to revamp all of our bus runs. We've changed our drop-off and pickup procedures. We've trained drivers and other staff on disinfecting procedures. We've transformed our classrooms. We've removed tables. We've established desks. We've made them 6 feet apart. We've increased the role of our nurses dramatically, and they have been absolutely heroic throughout this. I couldn't imagine going through this without such a competent nursing staff. We've revamped our food service delivery. We've brought in targeted students for more in-person instruction. We have developed and implemented daily reporting, and we continue to work on contact tracing internally, as well as working with the health department. Develop complex spreadsheets to upload to the Department of Health during testing. Created student attendance tracking, reduced platforms for families, created tutorials for parents, continue with professional development. We've allowed athletics to continue to the extent of the guidelines, and so much more. So I'd just like to offer my most sincere thank you across the board to our staff and to the Board of Education as these efforts, despite where you may fall on reopening or not reopening schools, have been nothing short of Herculean. And I don't say that lightly. Our folks are working harder than ever, and want to do what's best for kids, and they've been doing this all along. So a huge bravo to our district and to every single person, regardless of your role, and that is all highlighted in our mid-year status reports. I'd like to give you an update on the higher risk sports. On Friday, we received a tweet from the governor and then a press statement from our county executive and commissioner of health stating that higher risk sports can begin on February 1st. This announcement we were not expecting. We had no heads up regarding the announcement, but I will certainly share with you that it triggered multiple emails and questions from others. And they ranged from, now because of high-risk sports you should open schools fully, and received other emails that said you need to be a leader and take a stance and not allow this because high-risk sports will bring COVID in the classroom. So you can see right off the bat the different perspectives of how to deal with the pandemic. I will share that since this decision, we have not met with Dr. Mendoza. This meeting is set for tomorrow afternoon. At this meeting, we hope to learn the rationale behind the decision and more about protocols and the extent, if any, the protocols have changed. I simply can't comment on that because to this point we have not been included on that. I also feel compelled to share that terms like protocols and guidance are similar when I speak to those words as they're both embedded in law. So when I talk about protocols that we have to follow or guidance that we're receiving, it's not guidance like guidance you get from your parents or guidance that you get from your teachers. It's actually for the most part following the written law, and we must follow them. So specific to opening schools, we're in the same category as restaurants. We're bound by law to follow what the guidance and the protocols are. The biggest law that we must follow is 6 feet of distance between students while in school and on the school bus. This is why our buses are at 1/3 capacity and why our classrooms have approximately half the amount of students, and in some cases even less. So the million-dollar question is, when will we fully reopen schools? And I have to say that the very blunt answer is not until protocols, especially the 6 feet social distance mandate, changes. I have to reinforce that we don't control this. This is a conversation all superintendents have weekly with Dr. Mendoza. In order to shape these discussions, I think that looking at our data really helps drive the conversation. The good news so far is that internally, internally, meaning in our schools in Pittsford. As we look at our data as it relates to fall sports, mandatory testing when we were in the yellow zone, our in-school transmission rates, and our current voluntary testing all look favorable. I think another data point now that we can look at are the high-risk sports data. I think that will be an important next piece to also collectively look at all the pieces as far as transmission in the Pittsford Central School District. In the meantime, while we're collecting this data, we are bringing back more clubs to in-person. We are bringing in more targeted students for in-person learning, and we're looking at simple practices such as allowing middle school students to transition from class to class instead of staying in their pods in one classroom. In other words, we're finding deliberate ways to loosen up, but in a controlled way, as we collect our data and we report it to the county health department. It's my sense that vaccines will be a critical part of the state considering to reduce protocols. This is my anecdotal comment. This is not because of what I've heard. It is my hope that this year, if our rate of in-school transmission remains close to zero, and staff, including bus drivers, are vaccinated, that will be the tipping point to reopening. And when I say we consider, this again is the state deciding that we have that option, given that the 6 feet social distancing is removed. So I ask for your help in advocating for schools to become vaccination hubs. We have offered our complete services ranging from staffing to facility use in order to vaccinate our staff as quickly as possible. We have formally sent that to the Department of Health. I want to end by acknowledging that there are a wide array of opinions within the community about reopening fully. The one commonality is that we all want our students to get back to normal. We want everyone to be safe. The difference lies in how to do this and when to do this. This is why I feel collecting our own data is critical and sharing this data with those at the state level that influence instructional, educational decisions is important. So this has been an evolving issue. Every time I think we've learned something new happens. So we've been very fluid. But as far as asking for the community's help, I would ask for you to advocate for us, meaning educators, to get vaccines as soon as possible. I think that this is a big part in our reopening plan. And hopefully that happens sooner than later. So any work that you can do with legislators and the governor to get us vaccinated, I think it will be a window into being able to open this year. I would also share that ongoing updates around this topic obviously will continue. Also want to thank the multiple parents that I've met with over the last couple weeks on both sides, advocating for school to stay open and those advocating for us to just maintain what we're doing. Everyone has been wonderful as far as expressing their viewpoint. I don't know if there's a wrong one or a right one, but to this point in time, we have listened, and we're doing our best to make sense out of how to reopen school in a safe way. And the last thing I just want to share is around Black History Month. I think it's important to ground us back to what our superintendents wrote at the beginning of this school year. The timing is good, especially since we begin Black History Month next week. I'm just going to share portions of the letter to remind people, and if you haven't heard it, you can or read it, you can see it on our webpage. So what we shared collectively, which is amazing to have all 18 superintendents agree on one thing, is almost impossible, but this is something we felt very strongly about. So I'm going to read excerpts from that letter. It says that we acknowledge that discrimination exists in all of our communities. We see it in the bias that exists within our districts. We see it in the trauma that hatred and oppression inflict on our students and families. We see it in the educational inequities that continue to perpetuate glaring disparities in student outcomes. We know that the fight against racism, oppression, and hate cannot fall solely on families of color or within the confines of only some school districts. We all must lead this transformation together. That's why we are publicly committing to leading the change that will create lasting equity in our schools. We stand united in our support of equity and inclusion, and we claim schools as a place of love and acceptance for all. Our school communities have the power to turn pain and prejudice into healing and understanding. Let this moment in history be defined as a tipping point, a moment to truly come together. And you've heard me hopefully say this multiple times, that this is an opportunity for us all to come together during a really extremely tough period of our history, and on top of that with the pandemic. But going back to the letter, I do want to address that the superintendent's listed actionable items, and two of the items that we listed we will bring to the Board of Education on February 23rd for an update. The first one was to partner with BOCES and the University of Rochester for urban education success to develop common units of study to be included in curriculum across our schools that will focus on how race, class, and inequities have shaped Monroe County from 1964 to today. So on that February 23rd meeting, you'll receive an update on where that work is. I will share that it's close to complete. I'm also super excited about this work. I think it's going to be so relevant to our students, especially given that it's in our area. So the focus on what's happening in our area and understanding from 1964 forward is something that will be meaningful and definitely authentic for our students. The second area is to assess policies and practices in order to ensure equity and equality in hiring practices, high quality instruction, and decrease disproportionality in student achievement and discipline. You're going to see this take shape in a very robust policy that we'll be presenting to the Board of Education. And I think it's a huge statement because policy drives our actions. And this is an opportunity for the Board of Education and our community to be aligned to a value system that encourages a large scale of equity across the board. So I look forward to that. I look forward to updating the board on both of these topics on February 23rd. I guess I would like to close by just saying we've all been through a lot, especially during this pandemic. And it's time for all of us to do everything in our power to make sure, without exception, that every child walks into our schools every day and that they feel valued, acknowledged, and celebrated for being their true selves. It's work. It's messy. We're going to make mistakes along the way. But our commitment is to students and to make sure that every single one of our children are feeling their best and doing their best, and it's work that will be ongoing. It's passionate work, and there's not a better school district to do it, and we look forward to continuing that work. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. May I have an approval of the consent agenda? Thanks, Pete. Irene? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Old business? New business? Okay, public comment. So those of you who are waiting to address the board, a couple of just business items. If you could state your name clearly and your address prior to making your statement. We are going to maintain a 3-minute maximum on your comments this evening. So if you could please be attuned to that while you're making a comment and addressing the board. Okay. Does she need to unmute or? Laura Jean?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much for everything you guys are doing. I cannot even fathom to imagine the work that you've put in these past 10, 11 months, and I thank you sincerely. I want to just share that I am thrilled that high-risk sports have come back, and I know that is making many, many, many of our children really, really happy. I would also encourage you to, since high-risk sports are now back, I would love for you to advocate as well for performing arts. There are so many, as most of you know who I am and know what I do and know what my kids do. This is hugely important in our lives. And I think, if you can be on a wrestling mat, sweating and breathing and spitting on each other, I think we can be singing and dancing next to each other. So I definitely want to advocate for that. And if there's anything that I can do to help with that, I am more than willing and would very much like to help with that. I also want to thank you for the survey that has come out in regards to mental health. I know this is a huge issue. I teach many children each week, and I know this is a huge issue among them. They're struggling, and I'm glad that you're getting data on that for you to bring to our county leaders to share with them that we really need to reopen. We need to get back to normal. I don't want us to turn into Las Vegas and where there's an epidemic of suicide going on there. I don't want it to ever, God forbid, get to that point. I just got a text message from one of my friends today that her son is contemplating suicide. We can't let this go on much longer. It's an atrocity. And I just also want to share with you, and you probably know about Perry Central Schools. I would encourage you, I know they're not in our county, but I would encourage you to maybe look at what they're doing and advocate for that in our county. They're using barriers, and they are not 6 feet apart. They're using barriers. They're not masked when they are not, because their barriers are separating them. They don't need to mask, and they are going to school 5 days a week since September. They're using these plexiglass shields. So I encourage you to look at that and advocate for our schools, because if it's happening in other parts of New York, I mean, people all over the country are going back to school 5 days a week. Our government is incredibly stringent on the regulations, which is really hurting the kids, and that's really what we need to be focusing in on, which I know you all do, and I know you care so much about. And I know that it's not necessarily your issue. We need to really be pressuring our county legislatures and our teacher union to get these kids back in school. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to me. And thanks again for all you do.
Thanks, Laura Jean. We appreciate it.
Hey, Amy, if I could just reply quickly.
Sure.
Laura Jean, thank you. I would note that we do have a process in place, I think we're very close to having a process in place for all extracurriculars to submit a plan to bring back their clubs in a safe manner. So
Okay.
That's certainly in the works right now, if not completed. We're very, very close to that. And want to thank you for your feedback and for the call.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Anthony. Okay. Annalise? Hi, Annalise. If you could just give us your address, please.
Sure. I live on 49 Falcon Trail.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi. I wanted to first recognize and express gratitude for all the board members and district employees who are every day working and engaging students and trying their best in a pandemic. These are unprecedented times, and I have so much gratitude. As a school psychologist, I'm also aware of the struggles of now and how heavy the social emotional toll is for students and staff, which is why I see racial trauma on top of that as an unacceptable burden for some children right now. I heard a story back in 2019. It was a heartbreaking. One family, 4 kids who attended 3 different Pittsford schools. At that time, all 4 of them had been called the N-word, and they had experienced in 8 months 8 different racially traumatic incidences before they pulled their kids out of the school. That's just one story, and there are many more. So when we looked at the statistics last meeting, it was noted that there wasn't a difference in people from minority groups leaving. And I want to say that even if it's not statistically astounding, people come here for the schools very often because they're awesome. And sometimes people leave because of the schools. And if it's because of a system that they feel let them down, well, we can make that better and we can prevent that from happening with another family. So I know that many people have emailed and asked, we know you're doubling down. We know you're trying a lot of things. We've asked you to triple down and quadruple down. I know it's asking a lot in the pandemic, but please just keep trying. This isn't just a Pittsford thing. I'm advocating for curriculum and staff training where I work too. And it's not just about racism, even though that's a huge priority. It's about children with disabilities, LGBTQAI+ kids, and more. It's about people, all of us connecting and making all feel safe and welcome. And this will help all children be better, more tolerant, more knowledgeable citizens. So specifically, there's 4 requests. The district is able to have someone with multicultural credentials assist in reviewing the updated curriculum, seeking input from people with historically marginalized identities regarding curriculum, including parents and BIPOC students, reconsidering adding the Pathstone curriculum to what is being implemented, especially for the 4th graders. And in such stressful times, I know asking for more when you're juggling so much already is a lot, which is why this next one is both big and important and necessary. A new full-time position should be created, such as the Director of Equity and Inclusion and Innovation at NIAC schools. We need a person solely dedicated to this. A consultant is great. Consultants are great. But in addition, a full-time person who's able to see the blind spots, point them out with that fresh perspective is welcome, and who's able to fill in the concrete communication channels needed for marginalized parents and students to really advocate. Not adding this to the plate of everyone who's already working, but someone who's really fully committed to the systemic change we need. So when our community students are no longer feeling compelled to publicly protest, they have no urge to write anonymous posts on Instagram or elsewhere, or seek support from parents to help them deal with overt racism, anti-Semitism, ableism, transphobia, microaggressions at school, and they tell us about the fabulous multicultural books and the discussions they're having at school, we will know that the district is getting it right. So thank you so much for all that you are already doing and your commitment to do more and listening. Although we all have diverse perspectives, we're in this together and we can do it together. Thanks.
Thank you for the message. Thank you, Annalise.
Annalise, are you still there? Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming tonight. I will want to reinforce many of the things that you just shared. It's unacceptable for us in 2021 in Pittsford to not have every student to walk through our doors and feel that sense of dignity and value. Part of what we part of our jobs are growing every day, exponentially every year, and what we ask teachers and administrators to do. And I think that we need to own our part in making sure that all kids do get that sense of value and dignity every day. I also think that we need to continue to work with our community and our parents and find a way to work together so that this common message of full inclusivity is what permeates our classrooms, our hallways, our buses, etc. So I share many of your same concerns, and I thank you for calling tonight.
Okay. Hi, Taraha.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
All right.
If you could just reiterate your address for us, because I know
Sure,
it changed recently, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
So my address is 3 Warder Drive. And you did mention that it changed. My previous address, it's the neighbors that just passed. So it's been a rough weekend for me. Like I said, I do want to thank, kind of like everybody else has been saying, it's hard times. I want to appreciate everything that you guys have been doing in regards to getting this year going and kind of a semi-normal, per se, for our kids. So I do want to talk about a little bit about the survey that came out. I'm glad that, we had the wellness survey for the parents that came out. Many people are struggling with mental health. I deal with it on a daily basis. I had to send 2 kids to the hospital today because of suicidal thoughts. So my concern is those that are flying under the radar that may be doing well academically but are still emotionally and mentally struggling. They are harder to catch. And what can we do as a team for those students to reach out and to make sure that they're being captured? The survey was great. However, I think at the end there isn't really a way for the school to contact the parents if they are showing concerns of their students. You're asking the parents to reach out, which is kind of adding another stressor to an already stressful situation for parents. It's just kind of adding one more layer onto a very stressful time. So I don't know if there's a way with the results of the survey, if you can narrow down, how to connect to these parents, because a lot of times parents don't reach out for help, students don't reach out for help, and that's where we end up with the suicides. So, and then the other thing kind of on top of that, I know mental health is kind of something I've been into, so I'm sorry. But the other thing too right now, kind of like Annalise had talked about, is the racial trauma and kids who are struggling with that. How are we helping them? And then with the event that happened on January 6th, you have a new group that is going through multi-generation, intergenerational trauma. A lot of children of immigrants who fled countries where this is normal are now being re-traumatized by the events that they saw. So how are we reaching out to them and kind of making sure that they are also okay? And then lastly, this kind of is directed to the comment about February 23rd with the new curriculum that's being used across Monroe County. I'm excited to attend to see what that is about. But I was just wondering if, after it's been presented to the board and it's more solid, will there be a presentation or an overview that we can, as PTSAD and I, present to the parents, kind of like we did with the climate survey or the DASA training, and we're going to do with the library audit on February 1st, something so we can connect and get the parents aware of what's going on with the curriculum. So that's all I had. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Taraha. Mike, did you want to address?
Yeah, wow. There's a lot there, all very valid and good points. So let me start with the last. We are, this has been, it's been tough to communicate because as far as the curriculum work is concerned, because there's probably close to 30 people working on the curriculum all at once, taking different parts of it, trying to pull it together, vet it within a group, vet it within experts, and so that's the process we're in right now. We'll send we will do a presentation to the board in our last meeting in February, and while that's happening, we are planning to reach out to one of our consultants to talk as well about the best way to vet this through our organization. So I don't see why we would not bring it to IAC or other places. It's something we should be happy about and get as much feedback as we can. So look forward to that process. We just want to make sure we're working with as many stakeholders as we can before we pilot it this spring. The trauma part is just is large. Every point that you made is legitimate. I will share that at our schools we have weekly meetings with our counselors, our psychologists, our principals. We have lots of students and families that are on our radar. We have lists of kids and families that we check in with. We have lists of kids and families that we reach out to. And we have those same lists where we provide additional support and monitor that support. It's something that is critical for us, and we acknowledge that mental health is really a priority right now. So our hope, our plight, is to be as accessible as possible. When we know that there's a mental health crisis, all of the other work stops in the district. And if it's not our psychologists, or if it's not our principals, if it's not me, if it's not an assistant superintendent or a director, someone is reaching out to the family. Pat, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Mike, I would highlight the regular meetings at the buildings where the mental health staff meet with the administrators to look at where each of the students are or any concerns that they're aware of, and then they develop an action plan to support the student or family.
Thank you. And I guess I would just close by encouraging families, if anyone is in need of support, to please reach out to whoever you feel comfortable with within the district, and the correct information will get to the people it needs to provide the support that is needed.
Okay.
Vicki, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Looks like you may have a connection issue.
We go. There we go.
There we go.
We just
have to unmute you.
Unmute.
There we go. How's that better?
Yes. Hi, Vicki. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you.
If you could just give us your address, Vicki, please.
I'm sorry.
Your address, please.
Oh, yes. You're breaking up just a little bit. 24 McCord Woods Drive.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to be brief. I have a few points that I would like to make and a couple of questions, mostly points though. So just for the record, I'm aware of the recent Article 78 lawsuits that's been filed And I just, for the record, want to clarify that Rock for Educational Freedom is not a plaintiff, and that Rock for Educational Freedom is not an entity in and of itself. So I just want Mike and you all to be aware of that, so that there's ongoing communications with the parents in the district. In addition to that recent lawsuit, I'm also aware that in the works are national class action suits that are being developed against all districts, all school districts. So we need to be thinking a little more aggressively about why we are not, as a district, when we're empowered by the governor to make the decisions on when to reopen our schools, rather than pointing the finger at Mike Mendoza. Mike Mendoza's mandates are over and above actually what the state education department is. So if other school districts are reopening 5 days, they're finding some out-of-the-box ways in which to make that happen. As Laura Jean mentioned earlier in her comments, I would expect a district like ours, with the community like ours, to be able to come up with a plan to make that happen sooner rather than later. You know, this has been going on for a year. We've been having these conversations about children at risk, the communities at risk, the health risk. We've proven with the data is just not there. You've done it safely. The test data supports that. I do not see a reason why these kids are not in school 5 days. Mike, you mentioned earlier about vaccines. So if there's the teachers and the staff are essential workers, or they're in the 1B status, that vaccine is going to become available in the next couple months. When that happens, do we see the kids then in school 5 days? And if not, why is that? Could you address that, please?
Sure. Is that your public comment, Vicki? Is that it? Okay. Thank you. It's good to see you. So I guess it's it's a pretty hard thing to address in a quick manner. So I do think that having staff vaccinated is a huge next step. I think that what we have to do right now is follow the law. And while Governor Cuomo said schools can open, he hasn't changed his executive orders, and his executive orders are the law. And so it's made it complicated at best. It's confusing at worst. We have to follow what's in the written word and what's in law. So I'm hoping...
I beg to differ with you. Executive orders are not laws.
So as a public entity, as a governmental entity, we have to follow executive orders, just like restaurants do. It's no different. So restaurants are forced to close or get fined. We have to follow that. So to answer your question, I think that vaccinations are a huge next step. I think what we've seen with this pandemic is that there's a lot of changes that are happening. So we've watched Europe stay open, and then much of Europe close right now. We've seen new strains develop. We're seeing things with pediatrics now that we weren't before. I think we need to keep our minds open to being open this year while ingesting the new information that's coming. I do feel, to answer your question to the best of my ability right now, is that vaccines are the answer for our staff, especially with the amount of staff that we have that are over 55 or go home to families who have parents or grandparents or others living with them. So,
but I'm hearing you say with vaccines, the schools are not opening, and they're not opening this year.
Well, you're asking me a question that I can't answer because I'm not the person that can open schools.
Okay.
The Board of Education can't open schools. None of us here in this room can open schools without the restrictions, the protocols being changed. I think, Vicki, I know that I know how you feel about this. I appreciate your stance. There are days when I wake up and say, geez, let's just open up. Let's do everything we can to open up. And there's days where I hear horrible stories about other things happening. And but regardless of how I feel, I have to abide by the executive orders. And so once those change, then our ability to make choices change.
So Perry is open. So Perry was able to open 5 days. They're not governed by or not under the auspices of Monroe County Health Department. So, but they're in the state of New York, so they're able to do it because they were able to put up the plexiglass and go to the 3-foot distancing rule. So why is this? Amy, maybe you can address this because you're on the Monroe County School Board district. So why are our superintendents not collaborating and pushing back on this, Dr. Mendoza, to change his rule about these 6 foot?
It's my impression.
Where is the leadership here? This is what I'm not seeing. There's no leadership in our school boards and the school superintendents to push back on Dr. Mendoza,
Vicki,
to change the 6 foot to get our kids in school. It is criminal what's happening to these students.
Still under Cuomo.
Yeah,
the 6 feet. So Vicki, I have to just tell you that when you say there's a lack of leadership, I really have to push back on that because we do have leadership in Monroe County, and I do think that we're working collaboratively. We're all in the same boat together, addressing all of the issues that are presented to us that do change. And I sense your level of frustration, but we're also frustrated because we're just trying to abide by the laws that are in place. And when you say that the 6 feet is Dr. Mendoza, 6 feet is also, that is the instruction by Governor Cuomo's office. So until some of these restrictions start to loosen up, our hands are tied.
So it's up to the judges to decide.
I would just I guess I would add this, and then I think we probably need to, end this.
Yes.
Part. But Vicki, I would say that I'm guessing your assumption is that we're sitting on our hands and not doing anything.
Not at all. Not at all.
So that's good. So thank you. I'm just trying to find out where we are in this whole thing. So I would say this is that when we meet weekly, we're not saying, geez, thank you, this is great. Let's just continue this forever. We are constantly pushing the envelope, trying to work together, trying to find a way to come back safely, trying to find a way to look at our own data, present our data, to see if that will influence change in a safe way. We're not sitting idly on this. The talks about reopening are weekly. I will also tell you that I understand the concern from everyone. But I would also say that we're in January. We haven't had a shutdown. We have our K-5 kids in 5 days a week. We're bringing things back gradually on extracurriculars. We're looking at data so we can say, well, maybe they're wrong, or maybe they're wrong. Let's look at our own data to make those conclusions. It's not happening tomorrow. It's obviously not happening the next day, but it is going to happen. And I look forward to that time, and I'm hoping that time is sooner than later. And we're fighting for looking at common sense, our own data, to influence when we can open in a safe way. So I don't want to sound, and Vicki, I don't want to sound defensive, but I also will share with you that I appreciate your thoughts with regards to this. You make good points, but I don't want you to think that all of those comments that you're making are things that we're not looking at or we're not doing. Our primary goal here is to open up safely. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki.
No, I understand completely, but I think there's enough data, and we're never going to be free of viruses. So if the government has their way, they're going to keep us shut down and go hybrid indefinitely. That is the ultimate plan here.
Okay,
And
Vicki,
there are a lot of people that realize that. So we'll just litigate this in the courts until, we'll just have all the data go before the judge, and then the judges will decide. Thank you for
Vicki.
your time.
Thank you. Brent? Sure. Yeah, Brent? Wow, Brent. Brent. Are we allowed to? Yeah, that is her husband's name. And can we also allow the next person in? Oh my goodness, look at those faces. So just
what are you doing here?
For those that are still with us, I do have an announcement to make that's off the agenda, but for those who don't know, today marks a milestone for our superintendent. Superintendent Pirro now is going to officially cross over the milestone of mid-century, modern. And for that, we wanted to invite some special friends to join us. And I'm hopeful that singing voices are better than mine. So I'm going to ask anyone who has a microphone at the table, we'll do it very softly so we'll do it COVID friendly. And those of you at home, we expect to hear you loud and clear, so you're going to have to carry the tune for us. All right, ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. It's bad. It's really bad. Happy birthday to
the superintendent.
Happy birthday to you. Yay! So, how does it feel, Superintendent Pirro, to join the club?
So, I don't like this club, but I'll be happy to join it with those that are there. Would like to say thank you, everyone that's on the screen and beyond, for making it a great day. Molly, Tyler, Ryan, Beth, it's awesome to see you at a board meeting. It's really weird. But I would say love you a ton, and thanks for putting up with my hours and sometimes my grumpy behavior when I get home. So love you all, and thanks for being on here. Cindy, thanks for all you've done. And Central Office team for being amazing. Board of Education, you're remarkable. So all of you, turning 50 isn't as bad because of those around me. So thank you.
Ryan, Tyler, and Molly, your dad has made multiple promises of what he's going to give you as a personal gift to you for tolerating him. And Beth, you get a special gift too. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this little surprise for Mike. And
Thanks,
Mike,
everyone. Thanks,
we wish
Amy.
you a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, thank you so much for joining us this evening. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? Thanks, Renee.
So moved.
And Irene. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that. That was great. That was very nice.